Nothing here is quick. If you came for a 14-day belly reset, this is not that. If you came for a morning drink that melts fat while you sleep, this is not that either. Those videos exist, and none of them have moved a single scan. So take the trade. You give up the excitement, and you get the one thing that has actually shown up on the machines that can see visceral fat, the fat packed in behind your stomach wall and around your liver. It is a number, and it is not the number you have been told to chase. By the end you will know which one it is, and why the one you were handed instead was never measured against your organs at all. Picture a Tuesday, 7:15, the kitchen still cool, the kettle going. You have already made a decision most people never make. The salad bowl comes to the table before the potatoes, and you eat the green things first, then the fish, then the rice. Somebody told you that flattens the spike. They were right, and you have been doing it for 11 months. And it worked. The 2 o'clock slump got smaller, and you stopped needing the biscuit at 4. You were pleased, and you should have been. Then last month you put the tape around your middle, at the same spot as always, at the end of a breath out. Same number, not close to it, the same number you wrote down last spring. So let me give you the study that should have been the headline. One group of researchers did something almost nobody bothers to do. They did not weigh people, and they did not put anyone on a diet. They put people in a CT scanner, twice, 5 years apart, and measured the fat a scale cannot see. Then they went back through what those people had been eating. It was published in the journal Obesity in 2012, out of the IRA's family study. Observational, which matters, and I will come back to it. The thing that tracked with less fat around the organs was not the timing of anything. It was soluble fiber. Every extra 10 grams a day of it, and the fat around the organs accumulated about 3.7% more slowly across those 5 years. Now the part that should stop you. It held whether or not the person's weight changed. Same body weight, less fat behind the stomach wall. You have been aiming a real technique at a real problem, but the effort was pointed at the wrong variable. 30 grams a day, you have heard that as a line you cross. Under it you fail, over it you pass, and the number sits there like a doorway. There is no doorway. The figures it was squeezed out of are a range. The range is different for men and for women, and it came from populations being watched for something else entirely. I will give you both ends of it later, with the paper attached. And I have to void one of my own promises while I am here. The title of this video says, Sequencing. Eating the fiber first is real, it is measured, and it is the smallest of the 5 numbers I am going to hand you. The order changes the hour, the total changes the year. So take the upgrade. Instead of one threshold you cannot verify, you get a range, and inside that range, the one share the scanners actually responded to. You expect me to say sugar. Sugar is not the villain here. Neither is bread, neither is your appetite, and neither is your age. The villain is a capacity, and it has been shrinking under you for 40 years. Think of it as ground, not a rogue agent sneaking into your kitchen at night, but a layer that used to be there and is thinner now, so the same rain runs straight off it. An agent can only be feared. A capacity can be rebuilt. I want to give you one picture and then use it for the rest of the video, because a protocol without a mechanism is a diet. Picture a field after a summer of rain. 3 parts. The living topsoil, dark and full of holes. The rain, which is your meal, and the crew, the roots and the worms working that soil, which is the bacteria in your large intestine. Rain falls on living topsoil, and it goes in. It sits, and it gets released over hours. Nothing pools, and the field is fed all day from one afternoon of weather. Now change one variable. Take the topsoil off. Same field, same rain, same crew, no layer. The rain hits, there is nowhere for it to go, and it arrives all at once at the lowest ground. Translate it. The rain is the meal. The topsoil is the fiber that arrived inside the food. The runoff is sugar and insulin arriving in one surge instead of over hours. And the low ground where it pools, on you, is the space behind your stomach wall, around your liver, in among your intestines. That is visceral fat. It is not a shape, it is a site. And it feeds itself. which is the part almost nobody explains. Fiber leaves the food at the mill, which means the meal arrives faster than your gut can slow it, which means more of it lands as one surge, which means more of it lands as one surge, which means the fat around the organs grows, which makes the whole system less willing to take up sugar next time. Now the same chain out in the field. Strip the topsoil, and the rain runs, and the runoff carries the last of the loose soil with it. Thinner layer, faster runoff, thinner layer. 2 winters of that, and the field has not got a drainage problem. It has become one. And you were not lazy through any of it. The layer came off at the factory, years before that food reached your kitchen. Do this now, while I talk, because you will want a starting line. Find the top of your hip bone, not your waistband, the bone. Put a tape there on bare skin, level all the way around, and breathe out normally before you read it. Write that number down with today's date beside it. Now the honest limit, because a tool with no stated limit is a sales pitch. That tape reads in halves of a centimeter on a good day, and it measures the whole middle, the fat under the skin and the fat around the organs together. Those two do not move at the same speed. So it is a coarse instrument. It is also free, and I will hand it back to you later with a job. Back to that scanner study, because I held its best number. They measured the fat under the skin as well, the part you can pinch, in the same people over the same 5 years. Soluble fiber tracked with 3.7% less accumulation around the organs. For the fat under the skin, the figure was 0.2%, and it was not statistically significant. Nothing. Noise. 5 years. 2 CT scans, not a tape. So the same food, in the same body, did something to one fat and nothing at all to the other. The fat that answers to fiber is not the fat you can see in the mirror. It is the fat you cannot pinch, cannot see, and cannot measure at home, and it is the one that matters most for your heart. And it costs you more than it costs a 30-year-old, for a reason that has nothing to do with willpower. Past 60, 2 things drain at once. The fat around your organs is filling in, and the muscle on your frame is going out. There is a name for the second one. Sarcopenia. Muscle leaving faster than you build it, quietly, over years. So the same loss lands on you twice. A 30-year-old with rising visceral fat has a metabolic problem. You have that problem sitting on top of a shrinking engine to fix it with. So the thesis in full. The action is wrong, because you are arranging a plate instead of loading it. The instrument is wrong, because the scale you keep checking cannot see the fat you are trying to move. Wrong action, wrong instrument. Walk one ordinary Tuesday with me. On the clock. 7:20. 2 slices of white toast and a coffee. That toast was wheat once. What arrived on your plate is the starch out of the middle of the grain, with the bran and the germ taken off at the mill, because those are the parts that go stale. 1:10. A sandwich, same flour, different shape. 6:50. The meal you have been careful with. Salad first, then the chicken, then the rice. You did the hard part properly. Now the fork goes down, and only one question decided anything. How much fiber came in across those 11 hours, from actual food? 2 branches. Branch A. Somewhere across the day the total went past the floor. It came from food, and a fair share of it was soluble. The ground took the rain 3 times and nothing pooled. Branch B is the one almost everybody is living in. The total sat in the teens, for reasons that are not moral failings. White toast instead of rye, a juice instead of the orange, rice instead of barley, a cereal that says fiber on the front and 4 grams on the back. 4 ordinary decisions, and not one of them is a sin. One Tuesday like that is nothing, because your body does not keep a grudge for a day. But run branch B for 5 years, in a person doing everything else right, and you get the exact result those scanners found. The fat under the skin holds steady, the fat around the organs climbs, and your tape, faithfully, reports nothing at all. Nothing here is quick. That was the trade, and this is where you find out what you bought with it. And no, the fix is not a fiber supplement. I know that is where your hand went. I am going to take that apart in a minute, and you are not going to like how small the number is. Because it is not one thing. It is 5 unglamorous variables that have to be true at the same time, and nobody teaches them together because 4 of them are boring and the 5th sounds like nothing. 62 trials, 3,877 people, 6 millimeters. Nothing here is quick. Act 2 is the paper trail. Every number in the second half of this video comes from somewhere, and you are going to see exactly where, including the one I am about to demolish. Because there is a single paper sitting underneath almost everything you have been told about fiber and belly fat. One source. And it is a good paper. That is what makes this awkward. First, the shape of what is coming, so you know what to listen for. 5 numbers, not 5 foods. 5 numbers, and each one is a different kind of number. The first is a floor, a grams per day figure with 2 versions, one for women and one for men. The second is a share, an amount sitting inside that total. The third is the strange one. It is a 0. The fourth is a ratio, one thing over another thing. And the 5th is an order, which is not a quantity at all. Floor, share, source, ratio, order. You now know their shapes. You do not have a single one of their values, and you will not until Act 3. The belief is that fiber shrinks belly fat, and the evidence people reach for when you push them is a supplement literature. Psyllium, glucomannan, guar, the viscous fibers, the ones that turn to gel in water. The paper that pools all of it was published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2020, and it asked one clean question. Can viscous fiber move body weight on its own, without an energy-restricted diet underneath it? Steelman it first, because it has earned that. It is a systematic review and meta-analysis, and it pooled 62 randomized controlled trials of at least 4 weeks each, covering 3,877 people. 3 things inside it matter, in order of how much they hurt. The first is scale. This is not one trial that went badly. 62 of them, pooled, is about as much evidence as nutrition science ever assembles for a supplement. The second is the condition it ran under, and the whole video turns on this sentence. The supplement was added to an otherwise unrestricted diet. Nothing changed and nothing was taken away. It was addition. And the third one is the killer. It worked. Slightly. Body weight came down by 0.33 of a kilogram, waist circumference came down by 0.63 of a centimeter, and body fat percentage did not significantly change at all. Read that again. Body fat percentage did not change. And before you decide the authors buried it, they graded their own certainty in that result. And for waist and for body fat, they graded it high. They put the null in the abstract. Whatever went wrong here did not go wrong in the paper. It went wrong on the way to you. That abstract also says the supplement modestly reduced body weight, and modestly reduced body weight is a clause that travels. 0.63 of a centimeter is not. So hold the real figure 3 ways. As a figure, 0.63 centimeters. As a phrase, 2/3 of 1 centimeter. As an object, about the width of a pencil. 62 trials, 3,877 people, and the entire harvest is the width of a pencil off your middle. That is the indictment. The evidence for fiber and fat is real. The evidence for fiber you can buy in a tub is a pencil. Now, I am not leaving that as pedantry. There is a reason it came out that small. Delete the belief first. Fiber is not a substance that removes fat. It never was. What fiber does is occupy. It arrives inside food, it takes up room, and it decides what the rest of the meal is riding in on. It is not a job you can do to a glass of water. Best case. The fiber is in the grain, so the refined grain is not there, so the meal is slower and smaller, and the ground holds it. Worst case. The fiber is in the glass, so the refined grain is still there, so the meal is slower and exactly as large, and the ground holds a pencil's worth more. Same word, one difference. In the first case, something was replaced. In the second case, something was added. And nobody lied to you. A claim gets shaped by what is easy to carry, and add this is easy to carry in a way that replace that is not. So what happens when somebody studies the replacement instead of the addition? Recall the scanner study for one clause. 10 grams of soluble fiber, 3.7% less visceral accumulation, 5 years, observational. Now something closer to your own life. Published in Clinical Nutrition in 2022 from the Predimed Plus cohort. 1,476 adults between 55 and 75, all of them carrying overweight or obesity and metabolic syndrome. Which is to say, your demographic exactly, not a room of students. They did not count grams. They scored the quality of the carbohydrate people were eating on an index, and they scanned everybody with DXA at the start and again 12 months later. A 3-point improvement on that index across the year came with a measurable drop in DXA measured visceral fat. And when they took the index apart, 2 components rose to the top: fiber intake and the ratio of whole grain to total grain. And before you say it, nobody in that cohort went hungry to do it. It was a change in quality, not in quantity, which is the whole reason it is useful to you. It asks you to swap, not to starve. Now the honest limits. It is observational, so it shows an association and not a proof. 12 months is a year, not a decade, and an index score is a blunt thing. In plain English, across 1 year, in people your age and shape, the ones who upgraded what their carbohydrate arrived inside had less fat around their organs at the end than at the start. Now the fair verdict on the supplement, because it is not nothing. A viscous fiber supplement genuinely reduces waste a little, and if you use one for regularity, it is doing a real job, so keep it. Just do not file it under the ledger. It is a watering can on bare ground. It is not topsoil. Second pillar, and this one comes down differently, because I would rather show you the demolition than perform it. Soluble fiber is the good one. Soluble is the one that melts belly fat. Insoluble is just roughage. 3 sentences, and every one of them is a half-truth wearing a lab coat. Arguing over which is the good one is like arguing over which wheel on a bicycle is the important one. The provenance is where it gets interesting, because both camps hold a real paper. A review in the Journal of Nutrition in 2018 went through the large cohorts and reported that a high fiber intake tracks with a 20 to 30% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. But it put that effect mainly on whole grains and insoluble cereal fiber, while soluble gel-forming fiber from fruit and certain vegetables gave mixed results and generally did not reduce that risk. Meanwhile, the scanner study says the soluble share is what tracked with visceral fat. And the turn is 5 words. They measured different outcomes. Both are right. They answered different questions, and the answers got stacked on the same shelf. Cereal fiber and whole grain point at your blood sugar risk. Soluble fiber points at the fat around your organs. One is about what your pancreas is being asked to do. The other is about where the surplus gets parked. Which leaves you with a problem nobody warns you about. Nobody has your soluble number. Turn over 3 packets in your kitchen tonight and count how many split the fiber into soluble and insoluble on the label. In most kitchens, the answer is none. And the reason a single threshold got manufactured is not a conspiracy, it is a printing constraint. One number fits on a box. A range with a share inside it does not. So the cost of arguing about which fiber is the good one is that you eat less of both, and you cannot pick a side of a food that arrives whole. Now a section that is not a rhetorical group. Specifically you, if you take a prescription, and most people watching this do. If you go from the teens to the 30s in grams inside 1 week, you will be uncomfortable, bloating, gas, cramping, for a fortnight. That is not a warning to scare you off, it is a schedule. Go up gradually and drink more water than feels necessary. Second, and this one genuinely matters, fiber, and viscous fiber supplements especially, can slow or reduce how well your body absorbs some medicines. Keep a fiber supplement roughly 1 to 2 hours away from oral medication. If your prescription has a tight margin, that timing is a pharmacist's decision, not a video's. These are not legal disclaimers, and nothing here is telling you to stop anything you have been prescribed. That conversation is worth having with your doctor. 1 minute on me, and then straight back to the ledger. because this is not that kind of channel. 3 years ago, I could have told you the glycemic index of almost anything in my kitchen. I could not have told you how many grams of fiber I ate in a day. So I counted. Honestly, across a normal week, not a good one. 14. 14 grams a day, from a man who was reading the research, rearranging his plate, and doing the hard part properly. The number I am going to give you in Act 3 is more than double that. What I had was precision. What I did not have was a total. And the video you are watching is what I built for myself after that week. Now the title. Sequencing. Why does a technique that genuinely works turn up in every video, and the total almost never? Nobody is hiding anything. It is incentives, and they are dull ones. Sequencing is free advice that can be demonstrated in 9 seconds on a plate. A daily total is a shopping change, a tolerance ramp, and a year of waiting. Only one of those makes a good thumbnail. The same thing happens on the shelf. Bran and germ carry oil, and oil goes rancid, so the parts of the grain holding the fiber are the parts that shorten a loaf's life. A loaf that keeps is a loaf with the fiber taken out. That is a warehouse decision, not a plot. The fastest number in this ledger took 12 months to show up on a scanner. Nothing here is quick, and that is not a flaw in the advice. It is a property of the evidence. So, the ledger, 5 numbers: floor, share, source, ratio, order. That is the fiber ledger, and it fits on the back of a receipt. The order changes the hour, the total changes the year, and 4 of these 5 are about the year. And there is one more thing. There is a single mistake that cancels all 5 at once. Not skipping one, doing all 5 and cancelling them anyway. It is the mistake of somebody doing everything right, and I made it for 2 years after that week of counting. Nothing here is quick. Act 3 is the ledger itself, and I want you to notice something as I go. None of it asks you to do more of what you were already doing. 2 categories. 2 of these numbers are about how much, and 3 of them are about what it arrives inside. Each one comes to you the same way. The number, then where it came from, then why it exists. A protocol without a mechanism is a diet, and you would have forgotten a diet by Thursday. Number 1, the floor. And it complicates immediately, because it is 2 numbers, not 1. You already know what a missing floor looks like, because you are living in it. A day that felt healthy, a plate that looked right, and a total in the teens. The floor is total dietary fiber per day, from food, both kinds counted together, because the ground does not care which grade of soil it is made of. The numbers. 25 grams a day if you are a woman, 38 grams a day if you are a man. Per day, not per meal. Almost everybody hears 38 and pictures a plate, and 38 grams on one plate is a wheelbarrow. Spread across 3 eating occasions, it is nearer 12 each. So bracket yourself. A woman at 15 grams needs 10 more. A man at 18 needs 20 more, which will take you a month. And this is not my number. It comes out of that 2018 review in the Journal of Nutrition, which reported intakes above roughly those 2 figures, alongside a 20 to 30% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Now the honest limit of its scope. Those cohorts were watching diabetes, not visceral fat. So the floor is not a fat number, it is the ground you have to be standing on before the other 4 can do anything. The convergent source is one you have met. In Predemed Plus, of every component in that quality index, fiber intake was one of the 2 doing the most work. Go up slowly and drink more water while you do. The floor is not the goal, it is the platform. Number 2, the share. And this one has an upper limit, which almost nothing in nutrition does. Inside your daily total there is a fraction that is soluble, the fiber that turns to gel in water, and that is the fraction the scanners responded to. The number is 10. Every extra 10 grams a day of soluble fiber, tracked with 3.7% less visceral fat accumulation over 5 years, in the IRAS family study, published in Obesity in 2012, observational cohort, not a trial. Now the unit error, and everybody makes it. That is 10 grams of soluble fiber, not 10 grams of fiber. In most foods, the soluble share is the minority of the total. So 10 soluble grams is most of the reason your floor has to be as high as it is. Bracket it. Somebody eating 15 grams of total fiber is probably getting 4 or 5 soluble. Somebody at 30, from a spread of real foods, is probably near 10. And the foods are dull and cheap, which is the good news. Oats, beans, lentils, citrus, including the white pith on the orange that you peel off and bin. Tell me below which of these is already sitting in your kitchen right now. Back to the field. This is the part of the topsoil that actually holds water. The total gets you standing. The share is what soaks. Number 3, the source. And the number is 0. 0 is how many grams from a supplement tub count toward this ledger. That is a hard thing to say to somebody just told to find another 20 grams a day. And I know where your hand goes, because mine went there too for 2 years. 62 randomized trials. Waist down, 0.63 of a centimeter. Body fat percentage, no significant change, and the certainty on that null was graded high. The mechanism one more time, because it is the whole ledger in one sentence. A supplement is addition, the ledger is replacement. And this is where I owe you a timeline, because a protocol that never says when is a protocol you will quit. The meal order effect is the same afternoon, and you will feel that one this week. The waist is a year, and in Predemed Plus it took 12 months and a DXA scanner to see it. The visceral change the IRA's numbers describe was measured across 5 years. So if you read that tape every Sunday, you will conclude this does not work, and you will have quit on the word of an instrument that cannot see what you are doing. Read it in seasons: March, June, September, December. Keep the supplement if it helps you go to the toilet. Just stop counting it. A scoop is a watering can, not a layer. Number 4, the ratio. This is the one I would keep if you made me throw the other 4 away. Whole grain over total grain. Count the grain servings you eat in a day, then count how many arrived whole, and that fraction is the number. In Predemed Plus, when the researchers took that carbohydrate quality index apart, the ratio of whole grain to total grain was one of the 2 components carrying the drop in DXA measured visceral fat. The unit error here is the expensive one. This is a ratio, not a quantity. Adding a whole grain roll to a day that already holds 3 white ones moves you from 0/3 to 1/4. You added fiber, and you barely moved the number that mattered. Bracket it. A day with 3 grain servings and none of them whole is 0. The same 3, swapped, is 3/3, and you did not eat more of anything. Back to the field. Every swap is a square meter of topsoil going back on. You are not carrying soil in from somewhere else, you are stopping it leaving. And the identity objection lands here. Nobody is asking you to eat like a monk. Rye instead of white, brown rice instead of white, oats instead of the cereal with the cartoon on the box. Same meals, same hour, different flour. Replace, do not add. Number 5, the order. The one you were already doing, and I want to give it its due because it is real and it is free. In 15 adults with pre-diabetes, eating the protein and the vegetables on the plate before the carbohydrate cut the after-meal glucose peak by more than 40% and dropped the glucose area under the curve by 38.8%. That is a randomized crossover trial published in Diabetes, Obesity and Metabolism in 2019. And the same people ate both ways, so they are their own comparison. And a second, independent one. 16 healthy adults, vegetables, then meat, then rice, against other orderings. A smaller blood sugar rise, a bigger rise in the gut hormone GLP-1, and less insulin demanded in the first hour. Published in Clinical Nutrition in 2020. 2 trials, 2 populations, same direction. That is why it is in the ledger at all. Now its honest size. Every one of those numbers is about the next 2 hours, and not one of them measured anybody's visceral fat or their waist. The order changes the hour, the total changes the year. So do it. It costs you nothing but a sequence you already own. Vegetables, then protein, then the starch. It flattens the meal. It does not fill the ledger. And now the objection you have been holding since I said 25 and 38. It is the real one, and it is not about fiber at all. At my age, that ship has sailed. Whatever I do now, I am filling myself with roughage that pushes out the protein, and the last thing I can afford to lose is muscle. It has not sailed. Go to the hardest case anybody has looked at. 981 older adults across Europe, average age 71. The women eating above the median fiber intake had significantly more muscle mass on a DXA scan than the ones below it, 24.7% against 24.2%, and it held after adjusting for how much protein those women ate and how much they moved. In the men it held too, in the ones without metabolic syndrome, 32.4 against 31.3, and it is not one cohort. In a United States sample of 6,454 adults aged 40 and over, higher fiber intake came with more total lean mass, more muscle in the arms and legs specifically, and stronger grip strength, alongside lower body fat and lower fasting insulin. Both of those are observational, and I am not going to dress them up. Neither one proves that fiber built the muscle, and the European study found no effect at all on the physical function tests. But the fear was that fiber costs you muscle, and in the two places anybody bothered to look, in people your age, it went the other way. So if it does not cost you muscle at 71, it is not going to cost you muscle at 62. 2 shopping bags, 1 trip, no second journey to the car. Getting up off the floor after the jigsaw without putting a hand on the arm of the chair. That is the outcome, not a percentage. Here is the short version to carry with you. 25 grams a day if you are a woman, 38 if you are a man, from food. 10 of them soluble, 0 from a tub, every grain serving whole instead of refined, and the vegetables and the protein on the plate before the starch. The order changes the hour, the total changes the year. That is the whole protocol. There is nothing behind it. No phase 2, no window, nothing to buy. And that is what I promised at the start when I asked you to give up the excitement. The one thing that has shown up on the machines that can see visceral fat is a boring daily total from real food. And the boringness is not a flaw in the protocol, it is the evidence. Every fast thing in this field has been tested, and it came back the width of a pencil. Quick has a shape, by the way, and you have held it. It is a wrapper with a number printed on the front, and it weighs about 40 grams. So, the mistake that cancels all 5. It is not skipping one of them. Skipping one is obvious, and you would catch that yourself. It is the mistake of somebody doing everything right. You hit the floor, you get the share, you know the order, and the number on your tape does not move for 2 years, because you added instead of replacing, and adding is precisely what 62 trials already tested on your behalf. Watch how this happens. My grams here are rough, and they are mine, not a paper's. So take the shape and leave the decimals. 20 past 7. 2 slices of white toast, about 2 grams, and a spoon of psyllium in water, 5, 7. 10 past 1. A white roll, 3, and an apple, 4, 7. 10 to 7. White rice, 1. Broccoli, 5. A fiber bar, 9, 15. 29 grams. The app turns green. You did the order properly at dinner, and you took the supplement you were told to take. Grain servings that day, 3. Grain servings that arrived whole, 0. Ratio, 0. Now the same day, corrected. Same 3 meals, same hour, same shopping trip. 2 slices of rye instead of the white, and a pear, 9. A whole grain roll and the same apple, 10. Brown rice and the same broccoli, with the bar and the psyllium left in the cupboard, 9. 9, 10, 9. 28 grams, 1 gram less than the day that turned the app green. 3 swaps, nothing added, nothing extra bought, and the ratio went from 0/3 to 3/3. And you cannot make Monday up on Tuesday. There is no double portion that pays back a bare day, because the ground is either there when the rain falls or it is not. Which is the synthesis. The supplement problem and the counting problem were never 2 problems, they were 1 problem wearing 2 coats. Addition looks like progress on every instrument you own. Replacement looks like nothing until a year has gone. One new variable, then I will stop. The order works better on a plate that already has the ratio right, because the vegetables you eat first are only slowing a starch that is slower to begin with. That is the last weld. The order exists because the ratio does. So, the achievable minimum, if you take nothing else from this video: 1 swap a day, 1 grain serving that arrives whole instead of refined, starting tomorrow. The stretch goal is 3/3, and the floor, and the share, and it is a season's work rather than a week's. Before you go, the part that is not optional. Go up gradually and drink more water, or you will have an unpleasant fortnight and blame the fiber. If you take medication, keep a fiber supplement 1 to 2 hours away from it, and if your prescription has a tight margin, ask your pharmacist to set that timing. I share what the research shows, but I am not your physician. Check with yours before you change anything that matters. You will find the full source list under the video, 1 link per study. It is all in the description, in the order I named them. And 1 word in the comments if this landed: ratio. Just that, because if you keep only one of the 5, that is the one doing the work. Subscribe if you want the rest of this built the same way, with the papers on screen and the boring numbers left in. The objection I left sitting there is the practical one. Where do the grams actually come from, on a real budget, without eating beans until you are miserable? There is a companion video coming on the 2-week ramp, the shopping list and the tolerance schedule that get you from the teens to the floor without a fortnight of discomfort. You will want that one before you decide. 3 things it will name: the cheapest soluble foods for the money, a swap list for every refined grain in an ordinary kitchen, 1 for 1, and what to do about the week you travel. This video was the target. That one is how you hit it. Nothing here is quick. That is exactly why it works.